Looking back on the week that was and forward to the week ahead. It's the Fantasy Football Hustle. Here are your hosts, Brian Drake and Dwayne McFarland.
All across the fantasy universe, welcome to week 16 of the Fantasy Football Hustle, powered by Pro Football Focus. It's time for the semifinals, folks, after without a doubt. I can't even speak, folks. I'm so tongue-tied after this week. Without a doubt, the craziest and worst weekend of fantasy I've ever seen. From COVID outbreaks to games being shuffled to injuries, and more than just anything, a lack of points. We had a rough one, folks. But we don't stop the hustle. We're looking ahead to Week 16's matchup and who we can add to our rosters. For that, we'll lean on Dwayne's utilization report, which is live over at pff.com. By the way, we have a deal for you. Go to pff.com, use promo code ELITEUP for 50% off a PFF Elite annual membership for 2022. Get in now for the best value of the year. I'm not exaggerating, kids. You'll save half off a membership to pff.com with code ELITEUP. If you love what we do here, this is a no-brainer. Honestly, I'm not sure why you haven't signed up yet with our promo code, but here's another way you can lock in your edge for 2022. Code ELITEUP and save 50% off a sub for next year. You'll get everything for the rest of this year, too. It's an insane deal. Don't let it pass you by. Ask Santa to put it under the tree for you. Make sure you're following the show at FF Hustle. I'm at Drake Fantasy. Dwayne is, of course, at Dwayne McFarland. Head over to the apparel store at Verdian Global. Grab some hoodies. Grab a hat. Something fun for the winter. And, of course, catch me weekends with Andrew Erickson on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Saturdays 3 to 5 Eastern. Sundays 7 to 9. Dwayne not with me this week. Got some family engagements going on, but did pass along to me his utilization report and a bunch of notes. So Dwayne and I, just imagine this is both of us here with you here. It's just my voice you're going to hear, but it's a lot of Dwayne's work. So hang with us. We'll have a little bit of fun here. Be quick and painless. I promise you can get back to your shopping, because we all know you guys still have a lot of shopping to do. And don't forget the wife, maybe the most important person out there. The kids are going to want to open up fun things under the Christmas tree, but if you forget mom, you're going to be in trouble. So COVID has just made the fantasy football landscape ever-changing. It's brutal. We have new rules that seem to be written daily and new players popping up on the COVID list every time we open up our phones. Now, remember, with these new rules, vaccinated players can test out before games start. So there's a chance we're going to see some guys who are popping up COVID positive on Sunday. But for now, here are some of the latest and biggest names on the COVID list. And let's start with this trio in Kansas City. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Harrison Butker. All three are now very questionable for Sunday's spot versus Pittsburgh. Have a backup plan. Be ready, because there's a chance you might not have any of those guys in your lineup. And I know in the semifinal week, that is it's aggravating. It's mind-numbing, but it's the reality we live in. So you've got to go out and make sure you got a backup tight end. See if you've got, I don't know who you can get to fill in for Tyreek Hill. We'll talk about a few guys here on the show. And finding a kicker should be easier said than done, but don't be left with your pants down with the trio from Kansas City. Cole Beasley in Buffalo is unvaxxed and he's on the list. He's definitely out this weekend. So fire up more Gabe Davis, who scored twice on Sunday. I know I had him in a few lineups. Davis is a must-add for those of you still playing. He finished as a top 5 wide receiver this week and ran a route on 90% of Buffalo's dropbacks. That's a season high for him. In super deep leagues, I'm good at kind of predicting these weirdo wide receivers. Check out Isaiah McKenzie. I think he's going to kick into the slot for Beasley. They also like running him on some jet sweeps, things like that. While we're in Buffalo, I'm getting a ton of questions about Devin Singletary and his workloads. His snap share is off the charts with 81 and 93% of the carries the last 2 weeks. The Bills are still, to me, a team that don't want to run, especially in a tight game. Guess who they have this weekend? The Patriots. So as long as you have Singletary, though, with this utilization, As I said, 81 and 93% of the snaps the last 2 weeks. When Zach Moss is inactive, you know you can fire him up. Matt Breida, forget about it. The only thing you have to worry about is will he ever score a touchdown because of Josh Allen? He'll be in the RB2 discussion this weekend. The Chargers, they placed running back Austin Eckler on the COVID list. If he misses Sunday's game at the Texans, we're going to be targeting Justin Jackson as the priority ad. Jackson carried 13 times for 86 yards on Thursday night, and he's only rostered in 6% of Yahoo leagues. I figured that would be way higher with the fact that we might not have seen Eckler last week. So if he's out there, I would go out. I would prioritize Jackson over Roundtree over Kelly. Marquez Valdez-Scantling landed on the COVID list, which is a killer. He's a guy I was going to talk about as an ad. He's coming off a 5 for 98 contest where he saw 51% of the Packers' air yards on Sunday. MVS is still available in nearly 60% of Yahoo leagues. If he can't go, we can pivot to Allen Lazard, but I really can't endorse starting him unless it's a total desperation play, although he did see 40% of Green Bay's end zone targets this past week. It's week 16. We're still talking injuries, and boy, do we have some injuries to talk about. In Tampa, everybody's hurt who's not named Tom Brady. All right, not really, but it just kind of seems that way. The Champs will be without Chris Godwin for the rest of the season with an ACL injury. Mike Evans could potentially miss a few weeks with a bad hammy, and Leonard Fournette could be headed to IR. You can obviously drop Godwin and Lenny in redraft, but the names to know here are Antonio Brown and Ronald Jones. AB will return from his suspension and step into a massive, massive role. He and Gronk are going to absorb most of Brady's targets going forward. Brown is still available in around 30% of Yahoo leagues, so check your wires to see if he's been dropped. I don't trust any of these other kind of ancillary, obscure bucks at this point, the Jalen Dartons and Scotty Millers of the world, like maybe for DFS, but not in a season long, not in the semifinals. As for Ronald Jones, he's going to assume the backfield duties here, and despite the hate I've given him on this show, he's probably going to produce. According to Dwayne, here's how Rojo has fared last year in games without Fournette or games Fournette was limited. Week 4, RB 14, 18.8 points. Week 6, RB 4, 26.1 points. Week 10, RB 4, 26.8 points. And week 14, RB 14, 15.4 points. He's going to be on the field. They're still going to move the ball. Tom Brady's still his quarterback. We've been saying to you for weeks to add Rojo as the top priority cuff. I hope you listened. Speaking of priority cuffs, we're monitoring the health of Bengals running back Joe Mixon this week as he tweaked his ankle. If Mixon were to miss Sunday's tilt versus the Ravens, we'd likely see Samaje Perine and rookie Chris Evans spelling him. Now, Perine isn't anything special, but if he were handed the job, you could probably find 15 points in him as a flex option. Bengals coach Zach Taylor said on Tuesday that Mixon would miss practice time this week, but they're still optimistic for Sunday. Now, we can't take that chance in the semifinals. Go add Samaje Perine as a safety net. If anything, block him from somebody else getting him. This week, we should see the return of Adam Thielen in Minnesota. He tested his leg pregame, but he didn't want to risk it. Expect him to play at home versus the Rams this weekend. Julio Jones, he left the game again with yet another hamstring injury. Just cut him. We're done with this guy. We'll see you in Canton, Julio, please. There's zero reason for you to roster him at this point. The Titans did, however, open the return window for A.J. Brown. So hopefully we can see him back on the field in the fantasy playoffs, which would be a major lift to the Titans offense and our own struggling wide receiver groups. Speaking of returns, Jalen Waddle should be coming back for the Dolphins. His usage is outstanding, and he should be viewed as a wide receiver 2 in all formats. All right, speaking of Miami, we have to discuss this Duke Johnson game. Holy crap. Who saw this coming? Off the couch and into the RB1 spot for the week. Now, I know that Myles Gaston was coming off the COVID list, but he still had 36% of the snaps. But what Duke showed can't be forgotten. They're going to be smart, and in my mind, this is going to be headaches for fantasy owners. I'm not sure who's going to shake out week to week, and there's only 2 weeks left that we care about. But as for the semifinals this week, the Dolphins are at New Orleans. #yikes. I want no part of that. I'd add Duke Johnson just so my opponents don't get him in case he does go off and we have some crazy end of the year bonanza from Dookie. But this is a Saints D who are 4th in the NFL in terms of fewest rush yards allowed. No thanks. So Sterling Shepard, he's lost for the year with an Achilles. But honestly, folks, I'm not going to say go pick up Kenny Golladay or anyone in New York. This team sucks. The quarterback sucks. The coaches suck. The ownership sucks. I want nothing to do with this team at the moment unless I'm backed into a corner and I have to start Saquon while sipping my free medium Pepsi. All right, let's look at Detroit, where despite the kneecap biting and the Kid Rock karaoke, we actually have some fantasy relevant content here. Don't look now, but Craig Reynolds is kind of a thing. He gained 112 yards this week on 26 carries. Now, he's the main RB, and I honestly don't think they rush DeAndre Swift back anytime soon. I've heard the rumblings, we'll test him out this week. Why? What's the point? Who cares? Your team's going nowhere. What are you going to risk DeAndre Swift getting hurt anytime again for? Just sit his ass down, and let's play some more Craig Reynolds. They just signed Reynolds to a deal that's going to keep him on the roster through next year, and it's evaluation time in Detroit. Reynolds should see plenty of touches the next few weeks. He's only rostered in 13% of Yahoo leagues. According to PFF, Reynolds' 88.4 rush grade is the 5th best among RBs this season. This kid can run the ball. It's a nice find out there. Elsewhere in Motown, Amon-Ra St. Brown straight ballin'. Did you know, since the start of Week 13, he has the 3rd most receptions in the NFL? St. Brown has 2 top 7 PPR finishes in his last 3 games, and his target share is north of 30 in all 3 of those weeks. He's available in 70% of Yahoo leagues. That's insane. Not only should he be rostered, folks, he should be starting on your teams. Go get this kid. All right, let me dig into a little more of Dwayne's utilization report for some fun nuggets here. Everyone in Jacksonville was saying it's James Robinson week in DFS. Well, might not just have been last week. He's got the backfield all to himself now that Carlos Hyde is on IR. On Sunday, post Urban Meyer, J-Rob toted the rock 18 times for 75 yards and a score. And as long as his heel holds up, he's going to see a ton of work. You should confidently start him in your lineups. How about my Eagles? Fresh off a win over the football team, they have now outrushed their opponents by an insane, listen to this, 1,501 to 554 yards in their last 7 games. That's insane. Tonight, it was on the backs of Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard, who combined for 200 yards rushing. Sanders was the first Eagles running back since LaShawn McCoy to rush for back-to-back 100-yard games. The issue is he can't find the end zone. He's yet to score a touchdown this season, despite 18 carries for 131 yards on Tuesday night. Jalen Hurts pocketed a pair of rushing scores. Sanders should, though, still be started with confidence going forward as the Birds are just pounding the rock like it's an Army-Navy game. Speaking of vulturing scores, the Saints did Alvin Kamara no favors on Sunday night. He's in a 3-way split with Taysom Hill and Mark Ingram for rushing volume. And as Dwayne points out, Kamara hasn't seen the elite target usage we've grown accustomed to. He has 1 game over 5 receptions on the entire season. Hopefully, the Saints line gets a little healthy over these next few weeks, and we can see Alvin in the end zone. The Cardinals are a straight mess right now. A loss to the Lions, compounded by DeAndre Hopkins being lost for the year, has us scratching our heads over this offense. But Christian Kirk, if you've got him, hopefully fills the void left by Hopkins, as he's finished week 15 as the wide receiver 5. Kirk ran a route on 96% of Kyler Murray's dropbacks this week and saw 26% of the team's targets. He's a wide receiver 2 going forward at worst in the fantasy football playoffs. Also in Arizona, with Chase Edmonds returning, it was still James Conner seeing great utilization. Conner outsnapped Edmonds and ran more routes while still being the preferred goal line back. Conner should remain viable, while Edmonds is now kind of shaky as a flex-worthy RB3. Honestly, folks, just drop the Denver Broncos wide receivers. I did it last week. I dropped Jerry Jeudy. There's no reason to hold on to these guys, let alone think you're going to start them. Jerry Jeudy straight up goose-egged us this week. A 0. Are you freaking kidding me? Now we're going to see Drew Lock at quarterback? No thanks. I'll just keep rolling out whatever Denver running back I've got, since they're obviously not going away from this two-way split. For everybody else, we'll see you next year. In Green Bay, it's worth noting that Aaron Jones dominated the snaps and rushing attempts this week. A.J. Dillon still took 100% of the inside the 5 attempts, but it was Jones who scored via the passing game. If fully healthy, and it looks to be that way, Aaron Jones is a top 10 fantasy running back. I still think you can roll with A.J. Dillon if you have to. They're going to give him goal line touches. He's going to get in the end zone these next few weeks. The Packers might be the best team in the NFL. Seen a lot of buzz for Jalen Guyton because he seems to be scoring every week. Looking deeper at the numbers, though, he's only seeing a targets per route run over the last 3 weeks of 12, 10, and 6%. With Keenan Allen returning this week, I'm not chasing random touchdowns with Jalen Guyton. The New England Patriots were in an unfamiliar spot on Saturday night as they were trailing the majority of the game to Carson Wentz, of all people, and the Colts. That led to way more Brandon Bolden than we'd like to see. Bolden played, easy for me to say, on 100% of the long down and distance and 2-minute snaps, while everyone's favorite smash play, Ramondre Stevenson, played 46% of the snaps. If Damian Harris misses more time, I still think Stevenson is a good play, but the Bills and Pats square off this weekend in a game that should be quite a bit different than their Windstorm Bowl a few weeks back. Pittsburgh won a game it had no business even being in because the Titans turned the ball over 4 times. As I tweeted, the Steelers passed for only 133 yards, ran for 35, were 2 for 11 on 3rd down. The Titans outgained them and Steve Austin 316 to 158 and had the ball for nearly 18 more minutes. This Steelers offense is terrible. I don't care that they won. They're terrible. Pat Freiermuth sustained another concussion, so who knows? He could be done for the year. And Chase Claypool ran less routes than Ray McLeod. What the hell's going on? Najee Harris, though, did play 100% of the snaps and scored 4.6 PPR points. This weekend, they play a Chiefs team who could be without Kelsey and Tyreek. So buckle up. We'll see what happens. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me this week. We'll be back next week with our full show. Until then, both Dwayne and I want to wish you guys the very best of holidays with your families. Relax, stop and enjoy what is going to be a great, great week of NFL football. It can't be any worse than what we just saw. We appreciate your dedication to this show. And relax, enjoy the madness, and remember to never get out hustled. Thanks, folks, for hanging out with me. We'll take it easy. See you later.